Hello. Well, Liz referred to me as her twin, and if there's any truth to that statement, then I'm the twin who looked up to her sister, only hoping to be half of what she was. She truly was the big sister that I never had. And to stand here today and attempt to capture her essence in a few minutes seems like an unreachable task. This would be the kind of thing that I would run by my twin, gaining her insight and wisdom with questions like, does this sound dumb? Obviously, I can't do that, but I will attempt to share with you the Liz I knew and the things that seemed most important to her as she lived out her life in front of me. I am trusting that the same Father that we share will be here helping me to do justice to her memory. I remember really clearly the day that she got the news that her cancer had returned. She called me soon after her appointment, and completely absent from that conversation were the why me's. The whole conversation consisted of strategies of how she could best use her time in these last months, which is what they were giving her at that time. She wanted to know how she could best use that time, and that was the whole conversation. She wanted to tell people about the God that she knew and loved so much. So we started working on her life story, and she later put it into print and handed it out to the people that were special to her, that crossed her path. Some of you in this room might have even received that gift from Liz. Liz wasn't interested in religion. Everything she loved and desired to experience was about relationship. She read God's word with a desire to learn how to live in such a way as to resemble the Jesus that she loved. She wanted to do this in tangible ways. I'm not sure if many of you know this, but I have my beautiful daughter Alyssa because of Liz. She literally found her for us after we had an adoption fall through. How do you thank a friend for a gift like that? Liz loved everyone, and when I say everyone, that included even animals with faces. If you knew her, you knew that she refused to eat anything that once had a face. If it had a face, it was loved by her, because it had eyes that could have looked at her at one time. So there was no, in her mind, there was no option. She would not eat anything that had once had a face. She loved large, and once you were invited in, you were all in. Being with her for some of her treatments as she ran errands, or also being here for her birthday the last 2 years, was really like rubbing shoulders with a rock star. Everybody knew Liz, or knew about Liz. She left a lasting impression on people, an impression that she loved to use as a launch pad to share her faith. During the visit that I was here in April, she had something on her mind that was a desire, and it was to bless her mom with a special brunch. So during that visit, she asked if, she ordered me to carry a small table to her mom's place so that she could surprise her mom by bringing a lovely embroidered tablecloth to this brunch that Mrs. Harmon had embroidered many, many years earlier while living outside of London during the air raids. She had embroidered it in an effort to distract from the sounds of the air raids happening around her. That thoughtful attention to detail marked Liz's life. Actually, if you stand close enough to me today, you will smell the aroma of popcorn. Liz had a very specific thing that she wanted for the service, and one of them was a very homey smell, and she thought popcorn would be a good choice, since it wouldn't hurt people who had fragrance sensitivities. The only problem is that when I went to pop the popcorn prior to the service today, I burnt it. So the aroma is a little bit more earthy. Sorry, my friend. Liz spent so many hours of her last months on this earth not focusing on herself, but finding special ways to bless those that she loved. How precious to her were her children, Nathan, Tim, Joy, Stacy, Tracy, her precious grandchildren, her brother Chris, and his wife Jane, and of course, her man Frank. She was crazy about all of them. One of the last things that Liz did for me on the morning that I was leaving on my last trip was to write out instructions on how I was to continue in my faith, a faith that was being sorely tested at the time. In true Liz fashion, she hand-wrote on big white index cards my instructions. I would like to end my tribute passing on her words to all of you. So here goes. She instructed me that when there are people in our lives that have hurt us, the story in the Bible of the unmerciful servant is a wonderful reminder and guide to us. This story depicts a man who was forgiven a great debt by God, and yet when it came time to forgive a much smaller debt, he refused. She reminded me that we never want to be in a position of holding on to unforgiveness, because in doing so, we forget the great debt that we have all been forgiven. She reminded me to pour out my complaints to God. She said, "Lisa, he'll set you straight better than people will." She encouraged me to remind myself daily that God's word is true and that he never changes. She said, make a deliberate choice to believe his word over everything else. She shared that she studied the lives of Joseph and Job in the Bible and learned what it looked like to persevere through trial by their example. And lastly, she told me that it's all about honesty. She encouraged me and encourages all of us today to live in honesty. Honest about our need for one greater than ourselves. Honest about where we're hurting and really are. And honest about our need for each other. To my dear friend, Elizabeth Lizanne, who loved faces, it helps us today as we think of you seeing face to face the one whose imprint shone so brightly through your life. You represented him so well, and your well done is met with cheers from all of us who echo it here from this side of heaven. Please get to know this God who made our friend shine so brightly. That would bring her the greatest joy on this day. Thank you.